Hey, I'm Matt Ham, and you're listening to Whole Life Matters, the podcast where we talk about your faith, your family, and your career, and how they can work together so you can live an enriched life. Thanks for joining us.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Whole Life Matters. What's happening, Whole Life community? This is Matt, and I am so glad that you guys are with us again for another short and sweet episode. If you've been around any length of time, you know this is the podcast where we talk about your faith, your family, your career, the idea that your whole life matters, that professional success will not yield personal success, that those all have to work together in order for you to live fully as you were created to live. And so I appreciate you guys, all the feedback that you give me. The last episode 48, Believe in You. Ton of great feedback there. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that episode, please go and do so. Just a ton of encouraging thoughts and just a great conversation about the power of positive self-talk and the devastating effects of negative self-talk. So today I want to talk about this idea of excellence. This idea of excellence, this idea of greatness. You know, I believe that each of us longs for greatness. We long for excellence. I don't know of many people that wake up and just hope for mediocrity. We don't just wake up and hope for average. You know, especially when we're kids, when we're growing up, we have this vision of greatness, this vision of excellence. We dream big. But the problem is that the circumstances of life start to beat us down to the point where we accept mediocrity. We kind of say, yeah, but that's a big crazy dream. I'm just okay with this right here. And we start to accept excellence and we start to neglect excellence and accept mediocrity. And I think that that's probably one of the most damaging places to get to. And so if you're there today, I want to remind you that you were created with great purposes in mind. That your life was created on purpose, that you were created with the breath of excellence in your lungs. You know, as Christians, and that's who most of the folks that are listening to this are, as Christians, we were created in God's image. It said in the Bible that He breathed the spirit of life into Adam, and then that is the same spirit that we have as believers. The very Spirit of God dwells in us. That we are the temple of the Holy Spirit, that our bodies were excellent as a dwelling place for God's Spirit, and that God sent His only Son, Jesus, into the world for us, to die for us. And I'm sorry, I'm not sending my kid to die for something that's just average, for something just mediocre. I'm sending my kid to die for something that I believe is excellent, for something I believe is amazing, for something I believe has purpose and value. And that's you. You have purpose, you have value, you have excellence and greatness within you. And that's what your life is about. It's about to express that excellence. And that's a super, super exciting thing. But the problem is we give up on that idea and we begin to lose hope because our circumstances beat us down. But we have to be reminded to have faith in the things we cannot see. Have faith in the things that we feel deep down in our gut, that we know, that we're passionate about, that we were placed here for, those convictions. Those are the things that we dream about. That's the excellence we long for. But here's the problem. We're not living excellent today. You see, I see too often in the struggle in my own life is people have this dream, have this vision, have this greatness, this excellence that someday will happen. And they're neglecting excellence and greatness in each moment. They're failing to steward what they've been given because they keep focusing on what is to come. Guys, what is to come always begins right now. Excellence and greatness and gratitude and joy and peace all begin in the moment. They're not circumstantial. They're not some destination we're going to arrive at. They begin right here, right now. Excellence has to begin today. I remember when I first got my calling to begin writing and speaking, you know, I was 31, raising 3 kids, and I was running my small insurance agency, and it was my life. It's everything that I knew. I found my identity in providing for my family, and that was my business. So when I felt this calling to begin writing, it wrecked that whole thing. And to be honest with you, I jumped in head first. I was consumed with writing. I was writing every day, and I was just all chips in. And if this is what God's called me to do, then by golly, I am going to go do it. But the reality is, I was neglecting excellence in the everyday. You see, so many people have their dream job and they struggle in their day job. It's like, I got to suffer through my day job until I get to my dream job. Guys, your dream job begins right where your day job is. Excellence always begins right now. I fell into the trap of neglecting my insurance agency because I was dreaming about speaking and writing. And quite honestly, it wasn't until I embraced excellence in that moment and said, I have been given something here. With my insurance agency, with my clients, that is the beginning. That's the birthplace of where I speak. That's the birthplace of where I write. That is my mission right there in that place. That's where it begins. Excellence begins in every day. And it's only when you can understand and begin to learn that and harness that the opportunities will begin to unfold. So many people are suffering through their day job, waiting and hoping for their dream job, and they're losing hope because they're not being and embracing excellence in the moment to begin to birth their dream job. You know, see, God is a good father. He's a good father. He loves us. And just like any good father, a good father is going to make sure that his children are faithful with what he's given them. I have 3 boys, and my boys are wild. I mean, they're crazy boys. They love to do wild things. And so I always have to give them just enough rope, you know what I mean? And then they have to show me that they are faithful with the rope I'm giving them. I'll give them more. You know, I say, guys, listen, before I let you run outside and go run around on your own, I want to make sure that you guys can kind of hang out here in the playroom and not hurt each other and not get hurt and listen and not tear things up. And if you're faithful with being a good steward of that playroom, then I'll let you run around and play outside. And if you're faithful running around playing outside and you can show me that you're responsible enough and that you're embracing that excellence and greatness enough, then I'll let you go play across the street. And their territory begins to expand as they show me that they can be faithful with what I'm giving them. Before long, they'll be old enough and they'll be a great steward enough that they can play throughout the neighborhood. And this continues on and on and on until your kids begin to grow up and you begin to let them out into the world. And then pretty soon the world is kind of at their disposal and they can go out into that world in the freedom that they've been given. But it all begins because as a dad, I want to make sure that they're faithful with what I've given them now. The same is true of us in our relationship with God. As we are faithful with what He's given us, He will expand our territory. I absolutely believe that, a promise of the Scriptures. He will enlarge our territory as we are faithful with what we've been given. It's the parable of the talents, the parable of the 10 minas. Take what you have been given and steward it well, and He will give you more. So if you want excellence, if you long for excellence and greatness, begin by being excellent and great right now. I think I told you guys a few episodes ago that my wife and I just had a huge celebration. We actually sold our rental home down in South Florida. For those of you who don't know the story, back in 2005 when we got married, I bought a brand new patio-style home with a pool in the backyard and a gated community based off of a stated income and 100% financing. I was in the real estate business, and I just took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. I overbought on an income I didn't have. I bought way too much house. We relocated 8 months later. So for the past 10 years, we've been suffering through renting this home out. You know what the greatest thing that God has taught me over the past 10 years with this house is? Stewardship. I made a decision to buy that house. And I had to be faithful with that decision and what I had been given. And the chips didn't fall in my direction, I can promise you that. I bought the house for $279,000 back in 2005. And at the bottom of the market, the house's value fell down to $120,000. But I kept chomping away, making my payments and doing well with what I had been given. Everything with what I had been given to make sure that I was being faithful to continue to pay back the note on that house and to be faithful with what God had given us, even though the circumstances did not seem to be great. When we sold our home last week, we had actually paid down the debt so that we got a check back at closing. And I sat there and I thought about that and I said, you know what? The greatest lesson that I've learned in this process is that was not a $279,000 mistake. It was a $279,000 opportunity for God to teach me a lesson in stewardship. You see, excellence in anything begins with excellence in each moment, no matter how bad it looks on paper. You have to learn to be faithful with what you've been given. And to me, that means if you've made decisions and you've made commitments, that you need to honor those decisions and commitments. And listen, I understand that circumstances are out there and people have had to do things, and I'm not passing any judgment on anybody for any of the decisions that you've made, but you've made those decisions. Now you need to go about and make them right. Make them excellent by embracing excellence right where you are. Don't think that excellence is going to come in some far off place. Excellence begins right here. For me, what I've learned about this house is it taught me how to manage money well. It taught me how to steward what I have been given. It taught me how to make the decisions I've made right by being responsible and owning up to the things that I needed to own up to. It was a painful lesson, one that cost me thousands of dollars, but it was worth every penny because it taught me that excellence isn't some destination. Greatness isn't some destination. It's embraced in the moment. It's learned in the moment. And then as you are faithful with what you've been given, God expands your territory and He gives you more. It's a beautiful principle of faithfulness and stewardship. And I believe that it applies to all of us in every facet of our lives. So you listening, I know you have a dream. I know you have a passion, and I believe wholeheartedly in you that you were created for great, wonderful things. But begin embracing great and wonderful in each moment right now. As you learn to harness and embrace greatness and just excellence and awesomeness in each moment, it shows God that you are faithful with what He's given you. And He will begin to expand your territory. He'll give you more. That's the promise of God from the gospel. And I pray that you would receive it in your life. I hope you guys would find this encouraging, and I hope you would take actionable steps today to say, God, how can I be faithful with what I've been given? How can I be faithful with what I've been given? How can I steward what I have been given? If you're honest enough to grab a sheet of paper and write that out, I believe He'll speak to you about areas where you're maybe not honoring Him, areas maybe where you're not stewarding it well. And then you begin to make changes and adaptations as the Holy Spirit leads you to begin to be faithful and watch what happens. I promise you it'll blow your mind. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you next week. And as I always say, your whole life matters.